You know, they say don't follow super intelligent agents on stage, but we are going to see what we do here. So good morning, Zeta Live.
Morning.
Thrilled to be here. It's actually been 16 years at Zeta, but most importantly, we are 3 years into the AI age. We are just 1 week into the life of a showgirl era. And that is a moment that demands clarity on the big topic, which is how marketing creates enterprise value. And that's what we're going to do today as we go deeper into the true value of marketing with our expert panel. First, Tariq Hassan, former CMO of McDonald's, where he sat at the intersection of data, technology, and marketing. Most recently, he's been an advisor and an investor, and he's one of the deepest thinkers on the future of marketing. Next to him, thrilled to have back Janet Balis, senior partner at BCG and the true CMO whisperer who advises leaders on modern marketing and growth strategy. Jill Cress, CMO of H&R Block, building profitable growth at scale and setting the bar for all of us. Lastly, Professor Oded Netzer, professor and vice chair of research, or vice dean of research at Columbia Business School, a leading voice in data science and marketing analytics. So I'm going to go through the run of show because there's a lot to cover. We're going to start fast to get a sense of where our panelists stand. Then we're going to go deeper on the promise of harnessing the power of AI to make marketing more predictable, powerful, and persuasive through the lens of the true value of marketing, which just launched last week. I'm sure you all have subscriptions to Harvard Business Review, so you can see it there. We've got a lot to cover, and like always, a multimedia show so long as my clicker holds up. So we are going dessert first this year, the lightning round. One word or a short phrase, no hedging. We'll start with the full panel. So AI today is overhyped, underhyped, or profitably hyped. We'll start with Tariq and work our way down.
Depends on who we're talking about, but I would say probably underhyped.
Janet.
I'm going to say underhyped, and in the words of Ernest Hemingway, things happen gradually, then suddenly.
Jill.
I'm right with you guys, underhyped.
Take the professor view, overhyped in terms of taking over humanity, underhyped in terms of changing everything we do the way we do.
Some might call that hedging.
That's what professors do.
We will start with you, Professor. And we are going half the panel. Marketing today is one word or phrase.
At an edge of yet another revolution, the AI revolution.
Jill.
Courageous. Courageous. You want me to say the whole thing? Marketing today is courageous.
You're not being graded, just he is.
Okay, great.
All right, the next question. The CMO today is Janet.
A catalyst for enterprise transformation.
Tariq.
I'll go with a more vulnerable answer, confused.
Oh.
Speaking of, the most important question of all, Taylor Swift. This is for the full panel. Taylor Swift, greatest performer or greatest marketer? I'll start with you, Janet.
Greatest fiance?
Ooh. Taking the title from me. Jill.
Taylor Swift, greatest marketer.
Professor.
I know there are great marketeers here, but truly she is the greatest marketeer. But you can sell a bad product, so the product is clearly good as well.
Again
hedging,
hedge,
yeah.
but
I know.
All good. Tariq.
I would say two things can be true at the same time, and she's proof that there is such thing as brand performance.
Excellent. All right, well, why don't you close us out? The future of marketing is, we talked about marketing today. What's the future?
Oh, I'd say predictive value.
Janet?
Connected ecosystems.
Jill?
Driving more enterprise value.
Measurable.
Great answer. I'm going to give you mine. The future of marketing is profitable, and that's something most of us don't talk about. But profitable is not off-key. It is actually the harmony that CEOs seek from marketing, and it is what the modern CMO is intended to deliver. The modern CMO is the growth architect. And the growth architect's charter is to design the strategy, starting with the customer to set the course. It's building a system, unifying identity, data, and AI so that marketing learns and moves faster. But lastly, it's about proving the impact, making outcomes visible and accountable to the business. That's the modern CMO's role. But this vision is collided with reality, and I'm going to talk through 3 gaps that we've all discussed, but most importantly, we all experience. There's an expectation gap between what CEOs want and what they believe can be delivered. There's a systems gap. We all know this. Marketing technology today is overbuilt and underused. But lastly, and most importantly, is that there's an AI gap. There was a recent study where 4 out of 5 CMOs said that AI is a game changer, but 5 of 6 of them said that their internal systems were either too rigid or incomplete or disconnected to take advantage of it. So the modern CMO truly is at a crossroads. But we are going to fix that, as to go from not measured to make profitable real and growth predictable. The CMO of today has to own both the brand and the build. Usually that takes a lot of work. On this panel, you get a magic wand. So we're going to talk to the CMOs. So instead of 3 wishes, Tariq, you get 1. What is it, and how do you show impact right away?
Well, my first wish would be to wish for 3 more wishes. Look, I think clarity of enterprise priorities. I think as marketers, one of the things we've got to do is step back and not assume that our success ultimately comes within just the marketing function itself. And I think having a broader understanding of what the priorities of the enterprise are and the cascade of the development that has to take place across the overall technology infrastructure, and then having a smart understanding as to where we fit into it. So I guess my 1 wish is actually enterprise clarity.
Jill.
Love that. My wish is that brand drives what we call customer experience through brand experience. We spend a lot of time thinking about the customer journey, and marketing is always kind of to blame at the top of the funnel. But I like to say we can't market ourselves out of a challenging experience. And so I think when you have clarity of brand values to drive true branded experience, that's what I want. That's what my magic wand says.
Great. So as we go from the magic wand, at the core of the 3 gaps that I talked about is a sometimes shaky relationship between the CMO and the CIO. The CIO for the CMO is sometimes Hermione, the essential partner, and sometimes it's Draco, the foil. So in the companies that you advise, Janet, what's 1 friction that you see and 1 fix that you tell your CMO clients that they should sponsor tomorrow?
I think 1 friction is to really think holistically. And I mentioned the word connected, or the phrase connected ecosystems before. In the future world that we are now creating with AI, data and decisioning are going to move faster than ever before. So we have to work across the CMO and the CIO to connect things like paid, owned, earned, and commerce, because these things can't live in silos. So it's incumbent on the CMO to have a vision for that across the business, together with other leaders in the organization, and to really partner with the CIO to make sure that the technology truly supports that, because we can work faster than ever before, but we can't have silos across the organization or the way we're thinking.
It's great answer. And Tariq, you actually have experienced both sides of the coin. And in your last experience, probably a case study in how to do that.
Yeah, look, I've been fortunate. I've never had, frankly, the Drago experience of a CIO, because my belief, both in my experience at Petco and at McDonald's, was I couldn't actually be successful without them. Mm-hmm. And so if you think about product development and where we started when it was just literally the widget, the experience that Jill's talking about, AI is going to just accelerate the need for that, because it's going to draw on data from parts of the enterprise that frankly marketers have not traditionally had exposure to. So if you're not understanding where those sources come from across the organization, you're not building the on-ramps and off-ramps to support it, and you're not working with the CIO and the tech group to build that infrastructure, you're flying blind a little bit in this world. And the data will still find you, right? And so if you're not open to understanding how the development of that occurs, you're going to have a hard time.
And that's especially true as we move into the age of AI and making AI actionable, staying on the right side of that infamous 95% failure rate that MIT found. It starts with a productive relationship with the CIO, but it doesn't end there. So I'd like you to share one AI success or setback and why. Jill, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to how we think about the brand experience. So at H&R Block, we do taxes, such an exciting category, one that's full of dread. But people come to us for taxes, but we've distilled it down to the brand bringing the experience to life through four E's. So when they come to us, they want it to be easy. They're coming to us for our expertise because they're very confused. We need to manage their expectations, largely around the cost and what it's gonna, what the experience is going to cost them. And then finally, empathy, because it is actually a very intimate experience. It's like the experience that you have with your doctor. You're really divulging some of your most sensitive financial data with this person. So when we think about when AI started to really present itself, what we wanted to do was understand how AI could accelerate our ambition to deliver on those 4 E's. And so the first big swing that we took in partnership with Microsoft was to embed a layer of AI in our do-it-yourself software to democratize the expertise that we have. People do their taxes at crazy times of the day. It's a 24-hour business of people doing their taxes at home, and we have a call center that is not open 24 hours because we don't have enough volume, and then we have a chatbot. And we created a layer in between, which was an AI tax assistant. And one of the biggest hurdles that we have is if someone starts and they opt out, they likely don't come back. They're gonna go somewhere else. So putting that layer of AI, which was able to answer 80% of the most commonly asked questions, really accelerated our completion rates and our retention rates. And so it was a big, bold effort. And again, huge partnership across product, customer experience, and the CIO.
One of the great success stories today of making AI real.
Yeah.
Now, Professor, you have graduate students. You also are a professor to CMOs. So maybe you could tell us a bit, perhaps on the setback side.
Yeah, I mean, on the setback side, it reminds me, it's kind of the third time I see it, at least in the past maybe 20 years, particularly with respect to your comment about the relationship with the CIO. There was first CRM revolution, right? And then companies thought, oh, I'm going to get good software, and then I'm going to become customer-centric. You don't become customer-centric by buying a software or by having a good CIO. Then comes big data, capital B, capital D. Company says, we're going to buy lots of computers, good IT teams, good CIO. We're going to become data-driven. You don't become data-driven simply by having computers. You need leadership to adopt the mindset of customer centricity, of being data-driven. Where I see setbacks are when companies are thinking that AI is a CIO problem. It is an IT problem. It is a software problem. It is a leadership issue that you need to adopt. You need to adopt an AI mindset. And you see some of the tech companies are doing it, for example. Some are maybe too late to the game, like Google. But some are adopting it early on, and other companies are treating it too much as a CIO problem.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And we call that the AI-powered enterprise, because it does really need to be adopting a different language. And for the CMO as a growth architect, what they really need is a blueprint for making this happen. But a blueprint which helps you work isn't enough. You also need a benchmark to determine how you win. And that's where the true value of marketing, with the trademark, comes into play. So as I said, this was launched very recently, and it's a benchmark that ultimately catalyzes the blueprint. So it's one number to measure value creation from marketing tactics and strategies. The way that I think about it, and I was at Bain when NPS was first rolled out. If NPS changed how companies listen, TVM changes how marketers decide. It establishes one standard, one number, because one truth beats 1,000 dashboards. And we all know we're surrounded by 1,000 dashboards. Now, to Professor's point about the whole organization being aligned, it's one number that CEOs see, CFOs fund, and CMOs ultimately own. I'm going to walk through the math. Our co-founder, John Scully, when I told him that I launched this, he first went into, how do you determine this? And I said, come to my panel. But there's three different components. So one is profitable customer value. The second is opportunity value, not just opportunity costs, though it is thinking about trade-offs differently. And then lastly is complexity costs. This is the friction tax that we all experience. Now with the panel, I'm going to drill down on each of these. So we're going to start with profitable customer value, which Peter Drucker famously said is the reason for being for marketing. And fundamentally, I believe this is a shift from campaign value to customer value. So I'm going to start with Tariq. So when you were at McDonald's, the focus really did shift from something that was more transactional to relationship-based, and you guys did an amazing job of penetration with the app. So based on that, how did it change the marketing scorecard?
Look, I think a couple of things. And I don't think it was an either-or world, because when I joined the organization, we were just in the early phases of, frankly, restoring the brand itself. Physically, in terms of having redone the stores, but also emotionally. We had forgotten the connection of that brand with its fans, and we'd spent a lot of time on the transactional. The reality is what we were able to do over the next 4 years in terms of on-app usage, so we went from roughly around 20 million folks on the app to just south of 100 million, but more importantly, 50% of them 90-day active. You don't get them there, and you don't keep them there unless you're also doing the brand connection component to that as well. And I go back to what Jill said, the total experiential element of it, right? Because all it takes is, as you guys famously know, is why isn't the ice cream machine working, right? Back to the experience you're having around a brand and the transactional element. I'd say it was focus. We had 4 things that we inherently stayed focused on in terms of what we were trying to drive. We defined what our role in culture was going to be, and that was a way of making sure we manifested the brand. It was how we thought about it as it related to food. It's a lot about how we thought about living in our customers' lives and truly getting to know those young fans. We made data part of culture. We said, how you use data and the value you provide for customers in it will determine whether they want to continue to give it to you. And then lastly, we said, how do you think about that not just from customer value, but enterprise value? Right down to the crew inside those restaurants, as well as inside the organization, and just stayed on that beat, and frankly had to spend 4 years reminding people that boring's beautiful. When you get to a strategy you can keep repeating, stay on it. We get bored of our own shit way too fast.
Great point. Janet, when you're talking with your clients about this shift, what is the big change that you advise them to do if the North Star is enterprise value creation?
I think the big shift is to really be crisp and clear about what is the business outcome you're trying to drive. Because so much of organizations today are hierarchies and sit in silos, and so everything is a nested hierarchy, and essentially we're all triangles, right? And so in a world where things are going to move more fluidly and we can think like circles because things are going to move around the organization more without friction, in that world, we have to all be aligned around a singular goal. So if we think about being a circle instead of a triangle, we have to operate differently. We have to be really crisp and clear about that business outcome. It unifies the organization, it changes incentives, and now that works not only within the organization across different parts of the marketing team or other parts of the commercial organization, but it also works with partners. That might be a media owner, that might be a technology partner, that might be an agency. And so it allows everyone to rally in a world where, frankly, everything is just a variable. And AI will allow us to make decisions faster. And we are still going to make human judgments on a variety of scenarios, but AI will allow us to evaluate scenarios faster than ever before. because the scenarios can optimize to that business outcome. So being crisp and clear about what the business outcome is and getting everyone aligned around that goal.
I love that, the transition from triangles to circles. And for those of you with kids in high school, geometry still matters. Jill, H&R Block is built for LTV, death and taxes, after all. So how does LTV shape your customer acquisition strategy?
Yeah, tax moments, life moments are generally tax moments. And so understanding what are those shifts in a human's life that will facilitate reconsideration of the category or entering into the category. So we really think about it through life stage. And so 150 million people must do their taxes every year. It's a fascinating category, like, you actually have to do this thing. And there are very few new entrants into the category, but Gen Z enters the category every year. So bringing them in and fostering a relationship with new entrants into the category as their complexity increases is something that we spend a lot of time on. So understanding, when you get engaged, when you have a baby, when you buy a house, how do we really foster understanding where you are in your life to create more value for the enterprise?
Absolutely. So part of that is understanding trade-offs and moving from sort of an art to a science. So, Professor, how do you teach CMOs to make trade-offs, and what's one non-obvious framework or analytics tool that you use?
Yeah, one of the things I do at Columbia is I teach a CMO program. It's a program for CMOs. I direct the program for executive education program from CMO, people on track towards CMOs. And it's a year-long program, and then eventually they come for a couple of days at Columbia in the business school. And part of what we do there, together with a colleague of mine, Eric Coivisto, we are practically doing a therapy session for CMOs. They're coming and saying, look, I have an identity crisis, right? Am I a CMO, a chief growth officer, chief customer officer, chief client officer, chief experience officer? The relationship, as many of you have talked about, with the CFO, with the CIO. And during these therapy sessions, a lot of what we talk about is a lot of what the panel talked about, but this notion of growth, the notion of transforming marketing from being a cost center to being a growth center, because we are. It's exactly what we are. We just don't wear it well, right? If you think about where marketing came from farmers going into the market. That's where the word marketing came from, going into the market to sell their produce. That's how marketing started. And over the years, we have transformed from being farmers to being gardeners. We transformed into creating our own pretty garden. And then we are being perceived as gardeners as opposed to farmers. Farmers do bring in produce. Gardeners just make things pretty, right? It is on us. I think it is on us, on marketing, and kind of going back to maybe, Jill, you said if you had a wand, if I had a wand, I would make C-level executives understand branding the way all of us in the room understand it. And I think it is on us. And the way to do it is through measure. So we have a framework, for example, that we call know, think, and connect, KTC. What is it that you know about the impact of marketing? From the things that you don't exactly know, what do you think? And then how does one marketing action connect to another? If we take it out, it will have an impact on others. So thinking in a language of a CFO, and I think that TVM and customer lifetime value is the way to make this connection.
Great. And strategy being about choice goes back to Michael Porter. And one thing that I tell my team all the time is saying no is a growth strategy. So we'll close this out with complexity cost, which is the invisible tax on profitable growth. Jill, we'll go to you. So as I said, the marketing tech stack of today, overbuilt, underused. What are the 3 components or 3 systems or tools that if you had a blank piece of paper, you would start with?
Well, the first would be real-time MMM, which I'm very optimistic about, which we've just invested in, and I hope we fully utilize it. This one is pretty basic, but Workfront, we've just really been able to have clarity on what to say no to and what to double down on through a really efficient system. And then I guess within the Adobe stack, I'm pretty bullish on Adobe Journey Optimizer.
So we didn't hear that last part. You cut out a bit there. But
Sorry.
the big idea as we go from this is the notion of starting with one system, one model, one truth. And that really leads into something that we will rush through, which is the emerging partnership between the CMO and the CFO. A big part of the belief system of TVM and that methodology is that the CFO will have a seat at the table going into the future. This notion of the CFO moving from gatekeeper to growth partner. But now let's end as we began. The future. We'll zoom out and we'll look at the CMO in 2030. So every panel that I have talks about Taylor Swift and what I believe is truly the future of marketing in the Minority Report. So, but in 2030, 5 years from now, we'll start at Tariq. Is the CMO more powerful, less powerful, consolidated, or obsolete?
So I played within your construct up until now. Sorry. I just think that we're going to think about functions differently. I think we will inevitably, and I think you already see it with successful CMOs today. You are at the table as someone who understands the business, and you are an enterprise leader who happens to have marketing functional expertise. I think increasingly you will have greater tech expertise, greater finance expertise, greater operational expertise, greater CX expertise, and equally those partners will. I can tell you my last relationships with my CFO, there were just as many times I went into a room with him leading the charge on why we should spend more as it was me. So I think one of the things that we need to do in this industry is start to break down the functional silos, but also break down the way we develop teams, the work systems we put together, and they need to be more cross-functional. So I guess what I would say would be cross-functionally equal.
Janet.
So I'm going to build on that. I think the notion of a CMO will be obsolete by 2030, and I think about all the demand stimuli and commercial functions coming together, and so there will be a function, we'll decide what we call it later, which will be about creating and capturing demand. If we think about it today, why would a chief revenue officer and a chief marketing officer be separate roles? So I think someday all of the growth functions come together and it's just about demand capture.
Thank you, Janet. Jill.
I'm going to build on that as well. I mean, I think that one thing for certain is the customer is always going to matter. And so I tend to believe that this title will not be there, but I think organization around customer growth and customer loyalty, very much in line with what's already been shared, will continue to be a really important function. So I think the customer is going to make these roles more powerful, and we're going to see more consolidation.
Professor.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with Jill here. I think there will become more of the chief customer officer, the person who's in charge of the biggest asset of the company. It's not the product, it's not the brand. It is the customers. The customer is the biggest asset. Someone has to represent the customers in every single meeting, whether it's a meeting about inventory or HR changes or anything we do in the company. If they'll take on this role, they will be more powerful, otherwise consolidated into someone else who will represent the biggest asset.
Thank you. So I'm just going to close this out, and I believe that the CMO of 2030 will be someone who drives growth but speaks EBITDA and orchestrates AI. But the rest will be decided by President Swift signing Executive Order 1989 on the blank space. And she's going to declare that true value of marketing is both the benchmark and the blueprint for enterprise value creation. I want to thank my panel, and I want to thank all of you for being at the ground floor of the beginning of the TVM era. I'd also like to thank my co-author, Ed C., and again, harvardbusinessreview.com. Thanks, everyone.